The biggest story that we're tracking for you right now is India and Russia. India and Russia have shared a long-standing relationship with the bilateral trade and investment ties dating back to the Soviet era. Over the years, the two nations have strengthened their economic cooperation, with bilateral trade reaching unprecedented heights. In the post-Soviet era, India-Russia trade relations continued to grow, with bilateral trade increasing from $1.4 billion in 1995 to $68.7 billion in the financial year 2024-25. The two nations have also strengthened their investment ties, with Indian companies investing in Russia's oil and gas and pharmaceuticals and IT sectors, and Russian companies investing in India's energy, infrastructure and manufacturing sectors. Both sides are expected to reach the bilateral trade target of $100 billion by 2030. Now, let's take a closer look at trade between India and Russia, specifically what India exports to Russia and what Russia actually exports to India. So, when we are looking at trade ties, we are looking specifically at the exports right now between both the countries. So, India-Russia bilateral trade, the total trade, as we have been pointing out to you since the Soviet era, it has increased, and today it stands at $68.72 billion. And India's exports to Russia stand at $4.88 billion, while Russia's exports to India stand at $63.84 billion. India's trade deficit with Russia is $59.96 billion. These figures, remember, are for the financial year 2024-25. Now, remember why this trade deficit is being seen, because when we are importing from Russia, those are on large numbers on the defense scale. So, obviously, those agreements are larger, and hence we have that large trade deficit, which we are looking to in fact reduce. Now, when we are looking at India's exports to the US, what is India actually exporting? Engineering goods are the highest, and they stand at $1.26 billion. So, engineering goods are the most exported to Russia. Electronic goods then come next at $862.48 million. Then comes drug formulations, which stand at $577.22 million, and organic and inorganic chemicals at $545 million. So, as mentioned, these are 2024-25 figures, but remember, this is how India's trade is currently looking at exports to Russia, and the leading is engineering goods, and then we also have fertilizers that we are exporting. What is Russia's exports to the India? So, now this is the next big thing that we were talking about, petroleum crude. So, this forms the biggest chunk of exports from Russia to India. It is $56.8 billion. So, that forms the majority chunk of the exports from Russia to India. Then comes fertilizers. Russia is also exporting fertilizers to India, which stand at $1.84 billion. So, you can see the huge amount of difference. It is $56.8 billion for petroleum crude, and fertilizers stand at only $1.84 billion. Vegetable fats and oil also is being exported from Russia to India, and we are looking at the value at $2.39 billion. Pearl, precious and semi-precious stones stand at $433.93 million of exports to India. So, we are also importing pearl and precious and semi-precious stones in fact from Russia, and that stands at $433.93 million worth of trade. So, this is when we are looking at the exports from Russia to India, and we also saw how India also exports a lot of things to Russia. However, that trade deficit is large. Joining us on the broadcast is Professor M.K. Agarwal, Senior Economist. Thank you so much, Professor Agarwal, for your time. We appreciate you joining us. We want to understand, when we are looking at India-Russia trade, for 2030, they have a target of $100 billion. When we look at that figure, how much of it should be Indian exports and how much of it should be Russian exports? Do we wish to balance that trade deficit that is present?
Shivani, I believe that this trade is growing. Firstly, it should be acknowledged in a very positive and healthy manner, because the type of imports that India has undertaken after 21, that is after Ukraine-Russia conflict. So we find that this has been a balancing act at the global level. Particularly the European nations are benefiting because of the India's level playing field in terms of importing energy from Russia and supplying it to European nations, which otherwise would have not been able to get the supply of petroleum products so smoothly. So I think globally, India must be appreciated for its balancing act. Secondly, with regard to the overall trade, if you are looking at it, and minus if you are doing the crude or the petroleum products, what we find that we require to improve our trade relations further. And why it is more possible? Because in engineering and in terms of other, you can say, defense equipments, our ties are going to be strengthened, and this tie will be helpful in our Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, because Russia is only major country that is helping us in terms of transferring the technology. For example, if we are looking at the gun being produced at Amethi, so that is because of the transfer of technology. It is a collaborative work that is between Russia and India. Similarly, if you are looking, we are supplying agricultural products, we are importing, you can say, edible oil or fertilizer, we are importing because Russia is having surplus in terms of petroleum product. So I believe that we have to explore much possibility of our trade dimension expansion, because our basket is still very narrow if we are ignoring energy imports from Russia. And this can be done because what has happened after COVID outbreak, and particularly Russia-Ukraine conflict, we find that the world is gradually engaging in bilateral relationship for trade promotion. WTO has taken a back seat, and this is what even the Western countries are practicing at their command. So I believe Russia and India are well placed to have a better global relationship, and they will be able to bring economic prosperity to both the countries. That is my take.
Absolutely. And Professor Agarwal, when we also talk of energy ties, like apart from that petroleum crude, we are also looking at civil nuclear infrastructure, civil nuclear knowledge and technology transfer that India and Russia both are looking forward to, because that is one of the most important points that seems to be on the agenda of the meet that is supposed to start tomorrow. And when we are looking at the parliament, they have also introduced a bill regarding nuclear energy. So do you think that is one sector that we can look forward to more, greater, better ties?
Other than defense equipments, I believe that this nuclear deal is going to be a game changer for the Indian economy. And the type of relationship that we are going to engage with Russia, this will help us in making India again Atmanirbhar to some extent in terms of the nuclear know-how and nuclear plants. And that's why there is a possibility that gradually this technology or this sector is being opened to the private sector, because what we are planning and what Modi government is planning in its wisdom, that we should shift away from fossil fuel energy to you can say solar energy, wind energy and nuclear energy. For nuclear energy we need to diversify our know-how, our understanding, and supply of uranium also. So I believe Modi government is working in that direction, and the visit of President Putin is going to be historic in this direction because this technology is to be uh, discussed, and most likely it will be transferred to India for peaceful civil use of nuclear energy.
Thank you so much, Professor Agarwal, for those perspectives and insights into India-Russia trade. Now, Russian President Vladimir Putin will be visiting India tomorrow for 2 days, and for his visit, defense cooperation will be the central agenda. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov had said that discussions could include the sale of additional S-400 long-range air defense missiles. He said that Russia also hopes to take forward talks on India potentially acquiring the Su-57 fifth-generation stealth fighter. Dmitry Peskov highlighted the depth of defense cooperation, including the BrahMos program. He stated, and I quote, "As far as our cooperation in the defense industry goes, let's remember famous BrahMos missiles. It's not only just production, or it's not only acts of buying or selling. It's exchange of high technologies, and it really paves the way for a bright future in the field of cooperation." Let's now take a look at the current situation, what India actually wants from Russia and what Russia is looking at in return in the defense sector. So this is one of the major fields of topic that will be on the agenda on the Modi-Putin meet that will be starting tomorrow. So when we look at India-Russia defense agenda, what is the current situation? Russia actually supplies 36% of India's weapons. So 36% of India's weapons and weaponry systems comes from Russia. Indian and Russian forces can now refuel, repair and operate from each other's bases and ports. So this is another important point, that both the military factions of both the countries can actually do all these activities under the current scenario. S-400 deliveries are currently ongoing, and 3 out of 5 squadrons have been delivered. So we are awaiting 2 more squadrons of that S-400 missile system. Trade is booming, $65 billion now, and the target is $100 billion by 2030. So obviously we've been talking about trade. We're looking at that $100 million mark soon by 2030. Now let's look at what India actually wants from Russia. It wants more S-400 regiments and longer range missiles. Now remember that we are already in talks for 5 S-400 squadrons. We have 3 of them, 2 are awaited, but we need more because we saw how effective these were in Operation Sindoor, and we are looking at wars going forward being in that operational theater. So we need S-400s for our defense. The SU-57 or the Su-57 stealth fighter deal with full technology transfer and production in India. Now remember why this is important is because we are looking at benefiting the Make in India program, and we are also looking at technology transfer. So we are not just buying or we are not just selling, we are looking at technology transfer and then producing it in India. Remember, these are 5th generation stealth fighters, the highest, which can match other Western our enemies. Now the lease of 1 more nuclear attack submarine, INS Chakra 3 by 2028. So we need 1 more nuclear submarine, INS Chakra 3 by 2028, the lease on that. Another thing that India wants is joint development production of next generation systems like the S-500 air defense, hypersonic weapons, combat drones, AI, electronic warfare. And remember that why we are looking at joint production is because India is pushing forward its Make in India agenda, and when it pushes forward that agenda, it wants production in the country, but it wants technology and brains from Russia as well. So they want joint production in all of these fields. Also, we are looking at guaranteed spare parts and upgrades despite Western sanctions. So we are seeing a very cracked geopolitical scenario right now, and India will want that guarantee that despite sanctions, we get those spare parts and upgrades. What Russia is looking at now in the defense sector: defense contracts to keep Russian factories running. So obviously it's going to look at defense contracts that will keep its factories running, and it will look at continuation of massive oil purchases by India. So these are the two most important things that Russia is looking at on the defense sector agenda. Also, it's looking at co-production deals that help Russia bypass sanctions. Now remember that if there is a sanction in place, they can, actually this system of co-production will help both the nations. And a major partner that ignores US CATSA threats and secondary sanctions. So it is also looking at India as a major partner when we are looking at global sanctions that are currently being placed by the Western nations. So obviously India and Russia are looking at boosting this, they are looking at multipolarity in this world where everything is divided and dominated by the Western sectors. Joining us on the broadcast is Major General P.K. Sehgal, retired defense expert. Thank you, sir, for joining us. We appreciate your time. Major General Sehgal, first, when we are looking at, it's all benefit for India if we go forward with these defense deals that we are talking about. Obviously, what is your first impression of what actually India needs and what's on the agenda?
This visit of Putin is absolutely outstandingly important from India's point of view, Russia's point of view, and the entire world, particularly the Western world, will be keeping a very close watch on what transpires between the two nations. As far as India's defense is concerned, we are likely to gain very, very major concessions from Russia. Russia is supposed to give us the 2 additional squadrons of S-400. Perhaps we may not be going in for additional squadrons of S-400. We will be wanting S-500. S-400 did an absolutely outstanding job in Operation Sindoor, and as a result of that, we are now, if you notice, Prime Minister Modi had spoken of Sudarshan Chakra. Sudarshan Chakra is not only meant to provide security against enemy air threats or missile threat or drone threat or cruise missile threat, etc., to strategic areas or tactical areas or operational areas or to certain regions. But he also said we will protect the entire cities, entire important nodes, entire manufacturing nodes, entire strategic assets like nuclear assets, like vital bridges, like fuel installations, like any other installation, like the Gujarat refinery, etc. So S-500 has the capability. S-400 has a range of only up to 400 kilometers and can engage targets up to a height of 30 kilometers. It provides you operational and tactical air dominance. S-500 has got a range of 500 to 600 kilometers, can take on targets at a height of 180 to 200 kilometers. In addition to taking on aircraft, drones and cruise missiles, it can also take on long-range ballistic missiles fired by either China or Pakistan or any other country. In addition, it can also take on the hypersonic missiles as well as the glide weapons, which are coming into vogue in recent. This will provide us not only, it will give us strategic dominance, air dominance, it will give us missile dominance, and it will give us low space-based dominance. We will also be able to take out enemies' low-orbiting satellites, which can play very great role as far as India-Pakistan or India-China war is concerned. In addition to that, Russia is also offering India the SU-57, which is the stealth aircraft. If you notice, China has got already J-20 and J-35, 2 stealth aircraft. They are already deployed in Tibet against us. And they are also offering 40 of these to Pakistan, with the result that both our adversaries were likely to have stealth aircraft in the near future. China's already got them. India needs 114 additional aircraft. What Russia is offering is a 100% transfer of technology. And as far as S-500 is concerned, they're saying that we will give you the transfer technology for manufacturing the S-500 missiles within the country, and also maintenance and overall facility. As far as the SU-57 is concerned, they are offering not only this, they said India will also become the manufacturing, maintenance and overhaul hub for every other country to whom the SU-57 is supplied. In addition, we are also looking forward to leasing a nuclear submarine, Chakra 3, for a period of 10 years. This has already been on the cards for a very, very long time. And something very important has happened just before the visit of Mr. Putin, that the Duma, the Russian parliament, has already given the go-ahead for the degree that we had already discussed a long time earlier, that is repair facilities, logistic facilities, overall facilities to each of the countries in joint exercises during disaster, any other activity in the Indo-Pacific area, which is a great boost and a step forward. Western world will be looking at it very, very closely, because this is and in fact, before Putin's visit, he said that there is absolutely no holds bar. Whatever India wants for its build-up, strategic build-up, Russia is willing to open up the everything facility exactly like the way they opened up everything to China. Do remember that China does not have S-500. China does not even have the S-400. What they gave to China was the S-300, and their radar has a limited range as against the range that S-400 has got. So to that extent, Russia is willing to help us in a very major way. Then in addition, we will be having problems with spare parts for Russian aircraft and Russian supplied equipment. We are now wanting guaranteed assurances that there will be no hitch, or there will be no instruction to release of spare parts, timely spare parts. And we are also wanting to co-produce a certain amount of spare parts within India. In addition, what we are looking forward to is an absolute and total commitment by Russia that not only will they supply us the S-400 within a certain time frame, but as far as SU-57 is concerned, we want you to buy 2 squadrons off the shelf, and remaining will be manufactured under transfer technology within India. And we are wanting that this deal should take place and be closed within the next 1 year. And as far as the S-500 is concerned, again, our intention would be to ensure that we get this at the soonest. If you do remember, the other day the CDS has said India has to remain prepared, and we have to be prepared very soon. In fact, he's told the private sector within the country, if you cannot deliver within 1 year, please close shop, we don't want you. In other words, the government of India realizes that the nation's security cannot be compromised under any circumstances. This will give a huge boost to the ancillary industry within the country. It will give a huge boost to Make in India. It will give a huge boost to Atmanirbhar Bharat. Those are the key areas of interest to India as far as India is concerned. It will also give a huge impetus to India's defense exports.
Right. Thank you so much, Major General Sehgal, for all that perspective in the India-Russia defense sector. That's it from us on this bulletin. We are slipping into a short break.